Good morning, Guardians. Briar Rabbit here today. We're going to get into the weeds to look at stats and numbers and a bunch of other stuff that didn't matter in high school, but all of a sudden is very interesting when applied to our favorite video game. The reason for this is the recent publication of a paper titled Guns and Guardians, Comparative Cluster Analysis and Behavioral Profiling in Destiny. I'll put a link to it below, and if you click that link, you'll be greeted by this, a complex but very interesting study on the behavior of Destiny players and a profiling of how we play. Now, the data for this study was provided to the researchers by Bungie, and it contains quite a bit of information on how the study was created, which is boring. But the cool stuff is in there, and I dug it out to show you. First up, this chart. It separates player kills based on PvE and PvP and shows us some interesting stats. The average kill distance was substantially higher in PvE than in PvP, which makes sense due to the size of the PvP maps and the relative safety of shooting PvE enemies from afar as opposed to rushing in. Also, the distribution of weapon kills in PvP was surprising to me. Over 12% of kills were obtained with an auto rifle, tied with shotguns for the deadliest weapons. Melees and supers were just behind but far ahead of any other weapon types. Hand cannons are used more in PvE than in PvP, and snipers have a lower percentage of kills than fusion rifles. I was actually shocked by the high percentage of auto rifle kills. It's not something I see in the Crucible commonly, but it may be that newer players gravitate toward them and drive up those numbers, or maybe, like me, more people than I thought realize the Doctrine of Passing is still a damn good weapon. Shotgun kills are no surprise, but the fact that supers and melees score more kills than any other weapon type, max out that intellect and strength, boys. Also, the proportion of games played in PvP across the 1,200 player data set was only 18.77%. This initially surprised me, but remember, this study looked at a cross-section of all types of Destiny players, and many Guardians never stepped foot in the Crucible at all. Next, the study profiles Guardians in PvE and PvP. For PvE, there are 4 categories that show how we play. High DPS, the largest cluster of players focused on using weapons with high damage per second output and use their specials a lot. Guerrilla Warriors. These use a great variety of weapons and are highly adaptable to changing situations in the game. They change weapons often and are characterized mainly by their flexibility and consistent high performance with all kinds of weapons. Sitting Duck Snipers. These players prefer to kill their opponents at long ranges and tend to operate from stationary positions, utilizing sniper rifles first, then switching to other weapons as enemies close the distance. Mobile Marksmen. Unlike the Sitting Duck Snipers, the mobile marksmen stay mobile and engage the enemy at closer ranges, but surprisingly stick to a single weapon type, most commonly a long-distance rifle such as a scout, pulse, or sniper rifle. Now, I'd like to think I'm in that Guerrilla Warrior set, but it is the smallest group of players, so... They also categorize players by the weapons we used most. Pulse Rifle and Sword Reliant was 5.5%, and they have a high usage in Pulse Rifle and Swords, but no other standout qualities. Auto Rifle Reliant, high usage of auto rifles, low scout rifles, but no other standout qualities. Mobile Marksman, highest average kill distance, high usage of scout rifles. High Variety, lowest reliance on any single weapon type. Sitting Duck Snipers, high sniper but mid-range average kill distance suggests a player unwilling to adapt to surroundings. Close Combatants, shortest kill distance and reliance on short-range weapons and melee. Now remember, these are all PvE profiles. Distance is key here, thus the small number of close quarters combatants. Okay, next we have similar categorization for PvP. The playstyles are objective killers, highest scores for proportion of offensive and defensive kills, casual PvPer, does not appear to play PvP much, aggressive close range, lowest average kill distance, highest melee and shotgun kills, and Marksmen, highest average kill distance, highest hand cannon and sniper usage, plays PvP the most. So even though the aggressive close range player is the most successful type of player, it's the marksmen who play the game the most. You'll also notice a category that is suspiciously absent, high variety. It would seem that there are very few players who actually use a high variety of weapons in Destiny PvP. Instead, they play as one archetype and stick to it. Marksmen in PvP and a sitting duck in PvE, maybe a high variety PvE player who gets sucked into the shotgun meta of PvP and becomes a close range combatant. What does this tell us about balance or lack thereof? It's an interesting study, and I definitely wanted to share it with you. I found it very hard to categorize myself. I suspect that like a third party would be much better of just watching me play and then sticking me into these categories, but I suspect that ego has something to do with the fact that I refuse to put myself in these categories. But my guess is that I do belong to a few of them, and maybe not the ones I'd like to belong to. So that's going to do it for this episode, guys. If you have a topic or community creation that you'd like to see featured on an episode of GMG, shoot me a tweet with a description and link with the hashtag GoodMorningGuardians. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.